One of the most intense and dramatic scenes in Fury is the attack by American tanks on German positions hidden behind Pak-40 anti-tank guns. And not just any guns. This 75mm weapon was arguably one of the finest anti-tank guns of the entire Second World War. On screen, the commander of the Sherman spots smoke and burned-out vehicles ahead, realizes that serious danger lies in front of him, and orders the infantry, "Get off the tanks!" The scene is highly impressive. Shermans slowly advance across an open field. German gun crews open fire from concealed positions, and Brad Pitt's crew desperately tries to locate the source of the shots and destroy the hidden guns. But if we put emotions aside and look at history, how realistic was this battle? Let's start with the weapon itself. The German Pak-40 was a deadly threat to tank crews. It could reliably destroy most American Shermans at normal combat ranges and penetrate their armor without much difficulty. That is why real tankers avoided crossing open ground without reconnaissance and infantry support. Nobody wanted to be reckless. A well-camouflaged anti-tank gun could knock out several tanks before its position was even discovered. In the film, the Germans set up exactly such an ambush. However, this is where questions about realism begin. The Pa-40 crews fire several times at the slowly advancing tanks, yet somehow manage to miss or inflict only minor damage. In reality, a well-trained gun crew at that range would have had an excellent chance of scoring hits with its very first shots. Of course, psychological pressure should also be considered. When a steel monster is rolling toward your position, nerves can fail anyone. Another questionable tactical element is how the German guns engage the enemy. In the movie, they enter the fight almost one at a time, allowing the Americans to concentrate fire on each position individually. In real combat, multiple anti-tank guns would usually open fire simultaneously, creating a deadly crossfire. Under those conditions, the chances of destroying the attacking tanks would increase dramatically, leaving the Americans with far fewer options. That said, the filmmakers deserve credit for several details. The scene convincingly shows Sherman crews trying to identify the source of incoming fire by spotting muzzle flashes and smoke, before rapidly suppressing the detected positions with concentrated fire. This was often exactly how tank crews operated. Their main goal was to silence the anti-tank gun before it could pick off more vehicles. The infantry is also shown taking cover behind the tanks to avoid enemy fire. Meanwhile, the tracer rounds and shell ricochets bouncing off armor look excellent and feel authentic. The psychological tension is portrayed particularly well. Sitting inside a steel box, the crew never knows where the next gun is hiding. A single accurate shot can instantly turn a tank into a burning trap, and the film captures that constant sense of danger remarkably well. Of course, there are some cinematic exaggerations. Whenever a German gun is hit, it explodes in a spectacular fireball. In reality, a gun is just a piece of metal. It doesn't detonate like that. The crew might be killed or abandon the position without any dramatic explosion. Large fireballs would occur only if nearby ammunition caught fire. One detail that remains questionable is Brad Pitt's order to fire armor-piercing rounds. Logically, a high-explosive or white phosphorus shell would have been far more effective against a gun crew and a fortified position. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. In the end, the scene cannot be called completely historically accurate. It significantly simplifies the actions of the German gun crews and makes the American tanks much more survivable than they would have been under similar circumstances. However, the core idea of fighting against well-camouflaged anti-tank artillery is absolutely correct. For a tank crew, such an encounter was among the most dangerous situations imaginable. If we rate the scene on a 10-point scale, it earns a solid 9 out of 10 for atmosphere, tension, and conveying the threat, but only about 6 to 7 out of 10 for tactics and realism. In an actual battle, the Pak-40 would likely have inflicted much heavier losses on the attackers than what is shown in the film.
Another memorable sequence in Fury depicts American tanks and infantry working together during the assault on a German town. On screen, the Sherman crew slowly advances through the streets while infantrymen carefully inspect every building, expecting an ambush at any moment. This is where the film clearly demonstrates one of the fundamental truths of urban warfare. A tank operating in a city without infantry support is extremely vulnerable and practically doomed. In reality, tanks and infantry functioned as a single team. Tanks provided firepower, destroyed fortified positions, and suppressed enemy resistance, while infantry protected the tanks from soldiers hiding in basements, windows, or rooftops armed with anti-tank weapons such as the Panzerfaust. The movie portrays this cooperation quite convincingly. The cautious movement through the streets is particularly realistic. The crews do not rush forward at full speed, but constantly watch intersections and building facades. During World War II, urban environments were among the most dangerous places for tanks because ambushes could come from anywhere. However, there are still some artistic liberties. In certain scenes, the infantry moves too openly and does not make enough use of cover. In a real battle, soldiers typically advanced in short rushes, covering each other and avoiding prolonged exposure. The film also simplifies the process of clearing buildings. In reality, every house could become a fortress. Rooms were carefully checked, grenades were routinely used before entering, and movement through stairways and hallways was slow, cautious, and extremely dangerous. Special attention should be given to the communication between tank crews and infantry. In Fury, commanders constantly maintain radio contact and coordinate their actions. This accurately reflects real-world tactics, since urban assaults often failed and resulted in heavy casualties when such communication broke down. The movie also captures the psychological pressure of urban combat. The enemy can appear from any window, and a single anti-tank grenade can disable even a fully operational tank. This is why experienced crews rarely operated alone. At the same time, entertainment value occasionally takes precedence over absolute historical accuracy. Some firefights last longer than they likely would have in reality, and the enemy sometimes misses obvious opportunities to attack. Furthermore, the urban battles appear somewhat less chaotic than they actually were, where smoke, dust, and burning debris severely limited visibility. Overall, the urban assault and clearing scenes in Fury deserve high marks. They effectively demonstrate that a tank alone cannot control city streets, and that success depends heavily on close cooperation between the tank crew and supporting infantry. In terms of realism, these scenes deserve approximately 8 out of 10. The filmmakers successfully captured the key principles of urban combat, although certain tactics were simplified and dramatised for cinematic effect. Thanks for watching the video to the end. Subscribe to the channel and leave a comment.
Не, они и так изжарятся. Иди, иди.